and hot.
Yeah, damn good coffee and hot. Good morning, folks. I hope you're enjoying your coffee this morning. It is Tuesday, right? Tuesday, right? August 30th, 2022. Summer waning, seeing summer on its way out. Labor Day weekend is upon us. The unofficial end of summer this weekend. Get your partying in while you got it. Get it while it's hot, folks. Today, Mark Masters from Vail, Colorado, comedian, writer, a host of Vail Comedy, will be with me at 10 a.m. Should be interesting to get to meet him. I have not met him. I have only become familiar with his work online. Very funny guy, but he's bills himself as the second cleanest comedian in Colorado. So I'm going to see if I can't just kind of get him to do something, anything that's not squeaky clean. If he could drop an F-bomb. I mean, what couldn't hurt? One little F-bomb, just a good measure. Anyway, it's a pleasure to have you here today. Crazy day yesterday for me. I went to a gig I had at the VA in Northport, New York, which is quite a drive from where I am. And I had to wrap up my morning show a little early to get to one because it was an unusually early scheduled gig. And so I made the drive. I just got there, took out all my equipment. I made the phone call that you have to make at the door to let a receptionist know that I was there, and it looked like, weather was iffy. I don't know. It's going to be indoors. It's going to be outdoors. I'll make the call. Let's do it outdoors. I don't think it's going to rain. Setting up outdoors, do my little sound check. I'm doing a song by myself, and a guy comes out and says, we don't have music today. It's scheduled for Wednesday. Like, no, I'm sure it's scheduled for today. Oh, man, I made this drive. I set up all the equipment. I'm just ready to go. And now you tell me it's Wednesday, not today. So I checked my contract, and sure enough, it's Wednesday, not yesterday. So that was a good start to the day, and just went downhill from there. Lots of frustrations in the business world with listen, I'm going to bash Bluehost here. If you've got a website on Bluehost, Bluehost.com is your host. Get off of them. Find a better host. They have, first of all, the service is terrible. Nobody there understands English very well. I think most of their support team, I think this is true, is in Vietnam. And they speak English, they just don't understand English. So you could tell them your situation and what you need to be remedied 100 times, and they just don't get it. So you can write it down, they still don't get it. I've been dealing with 4 clients that I established many, many years ago who were on Bluehost when I got them. Dealing with them for many years, and they're the worst service of any hosting company I've ever dealt with. Bluehost, get off them. If you're on Bluehost, I'm saying this right now, and they can sue me if they don't like what I'm saying, and I'm sure they don't like what I'm saying, by the way. Worst hosting company in the world. Get off them. I can recommend several hosts that are better service, less expensive, just all around better options. I can do that if you DM me, but if they want to sign up, I will be happy to do it on air and start naming some. I'm always pitching. Always be pitching. Always be closing. Tomorrow, Dean O'Hara will be with me guest hosting, and we'll be trying to get him to dance for us to reggae. But I got to find a reggae song that is not protected by copyright. I could play some reggae and see if I can get him to dance for us. Or just bust his balls about dancing to reggae. Anyway, tonight I have a yoga and meditation lady who's going to be my guest on the evening program. That should be, I don't know anything about that stuff. Yoga to me just seems like, um, like something I could never do. I don't get it. I understand it brings a lot of peace to some people. I'm not sure if it's an exercise program, it's a religion. What the hell is it? Um, and to be frank, some of the some of the exercises, some of the positions just seem impossible at my age. They seem impossible when I was young and flexible and all that kind of stuff. So, but I'll learn about it. I'll approach it with an open mind, but thinking it's mostly for young people. Mostly for young people. Anyway, so that's what we'll talk about tonight. And later this week, Thursday, Michael Hilliard will be back with me. Now that will take a little break from the comedy stuff. Michael, as you know, the Red Line podcast. Michael is a independent journalist from Australia with real insight to things that are going on in the world. News that you don't necessarily hear. World news that you don't know what anything that's going on. And I don't know. And that's why it's good to touch base with him every once in a while. It's been a long time. It's been probably 4 months since Michael's been on the program. It's time for an update, a time for a refresher, a time to talk about things, to find out what's really going on in the world beyond the U.S. borders, beyond our insane politics that are going on here in the United States of America, where it really is idiocracy to the unbelievable degree that we're living in today. Um, so it'll be good to talk to Michael on Thursday. What else we got going on this week? Wednesday night, do we have something? Oh yeah, Inner Wealth Wednesday night, and then a doctor who was pitched to me. He's an obstetrician, uh, and he's written his first novel. Stanley Berry, Dr. Stanley Berry, MD. But his publicist told me he's hysterically funny. That will be 8 p.m. He should have been a comedian, is what they say. He missed his calling as a comedian, stand-up comedian. I don't think he's going to be trying to just. We're going to be talking about his book, but it should be interesting to meet a doctor who has missed his calling and should have been a stand-up comedian. No, we'll see. That's the week as it wraps up for you. And then Friday on the morning program, William Conway has done it again. He's gotten me another Friday guest. Preston Williams. Now that name just for me, that's a very commercial name. First of all, this is the fourth Preston I've known in my life. One of them, Preston Nichols, was an absolute nut job, insane person, but very smart. But Preston always sounds like a very commercial name anyway. Preston, the author of the Montauk Project, Preston Nichols. Now, Preston Williams, what does that remind me of? Preston, somebody else with an M. There's another M. Having my senior moments again. You know, I blew the memory test that I had signed up for, clinical memory test. This week, I was scheduled to take part in a clinical study about memory loss. Wait till you hear his whole name. Good morning, William. Good morning, Dean, in the chat room. Good to see you guys. Chat room's a little slow, and that's fine. Clinical memory loss. So I signed up for this test, but I bought this medical marijuana called Malawi memory loss. What's in a name? What's in a name? And I smoked a little bit before my phone call with the clinician. And basically went through the survey that morning, and she said, you don't qualify. Your memory is too good to take part in the test. That's fucked up. Like every time, it's like when your car is making a noise and you bring it to the mechanic, and then you get it there and it doesn't make the noise. It's like, I know I have memory problems. Believe me, I can't remember my name half the time. I can't remember my best friend's name sometimes. But I remember it now, so you have no memory loss. You can't take part in the study. But no but. So it's that situation. So anyway, um, so that's what's going on this week, and I look forward to it. It's today, believe it or not, is 63 years to the day Hawaii became a state, the 50th state. Is that impressive trivia to you? Do you care about that? They added a flag, the 50th star to the flag of the United States of America 63 years ago today. Um, so that's something to talk about. If you live in Hawaii, you're probably full of pride about this date. I don't really, the only Hawaiian native resident I know is Kermit Apio. And I didn't see him posting about it, anything about it. And you never see people from Hawaii like celebrating Hawaii statehood. Just to me, that would be something I would be interested in. In the news yesterday, let's get to some of. I can't, because every time I talk about Joe Rogan, it's like, why are you obsessed with this guy? Well, I'm not obsessed with this guy. He trends a lot. People, who's obsessed with him? America. And yesterday, I think was probably uh, the the high watermark of stupidity for him. I don't know, low watermark. Is it high watermark? He demonstrated just how fucking stupid he really is. Now it's hard to say. People are, oh, but he's worth $200 million is what they're saying right now. Nah, well, maybe $150 million, somewhere in there. So that means he's not stupid. No, you could step in shit in life and get lucky. You can be stupid. You can be a stupid person and get very, very rich. Believe me, I have more examples of this in my life than I can count. A lot of really stupid people. But Rogan, for for all his influence, um, he's inconsistent, and I think he's a bit of a suck up to whoever is in front of him. He's going to try to agree with and impress the people who are in front of him, forgetting that there are 11 million people watching and listening to say, wait a minute, you said something completely different yesterday. You are inconsistent and not being real now, but he still remains um, consistent with his followers. Uh, Good morning, Craig. Sausage Fest. What's going on, Sausage Fest? Tell me about that. I don't even know what that means. Sausage Fest. Is there a sausage festival, or is that some kind of joke that spam basically invented because Hawaii became a state? Spam was invented because Hawaii became a state. I'm going to read that one more time. Spam was basically invented because Hawaii became a state. Doesn't make sense to me. What is that a joke, or am I missing something? Uh, Oh, all dudes in the chat. Yes, there are all dudes in the chat. There ain't much in the chat. There's 3 dudes in the chat now, right? Four dudes in the chat. Anyway, the Rogan stuff. He was talking to Aaron Rodgers about voting Republican. Except, it's like that. This is what he's saying now, but for the last year, he has been arguing. Why do people call me right wing? Why do people call me Republican? I'm not a Republican. I'm a liberal. This is what he's been saying, arguing it out loud. Now, I don't care if you're a Republican, and I have friends who are Republicans, but if you're a Republican, say you're proud. Say be honest about what you are. He's been arguing a lot. Why do people label me as a Republican? Why do people call me right wing? And then he comes out and says the answer to all our problems in America, vote Republican. Now he's got one issue alone that he thinks Republicans have done a better job on, and that is COVID. Because just 2 days before that, he was arguing with some dipshit about abortion stuff, and he was taking the Democrat and liberal position on abortion. And he was doing it passionately. But his big issue with the Republicans, with politics in general, is COVID. And he thinks Ron DeSantis is a hero because he kept businesses open and didn't have vaccine mandates and all that stuff. And that's the most important thing to Rogan. Forgetting every other issue, and also forgetting that the vaccine was a Republican vaccine. It was put out by the Republican Party. It was Donald Trump's Operation Warp Speed. But so he's saying vote Republican. That will fix all the problems in America right now, but overlooking all the other issues, including that Joe Rogan is a criminal on a daily basis. He's a Class A felon on a daily basis in the state of Texas because of Texas Republicans who have the toughest drug laws in the nation, and particularly marijuana laws, where if you smoke like he does, you're a Class A felon. But he does many other substances. He admits to it, mushrooms and DMT and all that stuff. He said he was doing mushrooms every single day during that period where he was really under fire for the tape that came out with him with saying the N-word 100 times on it, all that stuff. He was doing mushrooms every day to get through that. That's what he claimed. Now that's a felony in Texas. So he's saying, keep me a felon. Keep voting in the people that are making me everything I do in my entire life illegal. If that's the stupidest fucking position anybody can take, I am happy to be doing things that are illegal. I'm happy the people I support are making me a criminal for living the life that I live. That's what he's telling me. Very, very fucking weird. We're getting back to the spam thing. Wait, Hormel was looking to tap into the Hawaiian market once they became a state, but they had to ship products there. But because it's so far, meat would spoil unless it was canned. So they made spam. Is that necessarily true? I don't know, because we're talking 1959 when they became a state. I learned this the Spam Museum in Austin. I don't think it's necessarily when they became a state. I think it's when they became a territory. Because I would think by 1960, I mean, air travel was a thing. It wasn't so far that you could keep stuff fresh for 3,000 miles across the ocean at that point. And so I'm thinking not necessarily, because I could be wrong about this. Of course, I could be wrong about everything. I am often wrong, but I'm thinking it's probably because when Hawaii became a territory, not when it became a state. I'll look into it though. People in Guam and Spam eat Spam 2 meals a day, according to Kevin. Oh, I'm getting sick just thinking about that. I think I ate Spam once in my life, or I didn't even eat it. I put it in my mouth once and spit it out. I do believe if there was some kind of apocalypse or some kind of survival moment, and all that was left was Spam, I would die of hunger. I do think I would die of hunger. I just can't. Let me read what Kevin is saying about the spam in Guam. Young man I said was from Guam was only one in our unit who loved spam and talked about it. Bubblegum shrimp. Oh my god. Oh my god. How do people survive? How do you survive on that? It is poisonous. Oh, good morning, Kelly. At least we have uh, one person who's not a dude in the chat room. Good morning. Pretty sure it's a dude's birthday. Oh, happy birthday, dude. It's my ex-wife's birthday today, Lori Thompson. Now, well, formerly Lori Atkins, then Lori Napo, now Lori Thompson. It's her birthday. Happy birthday, Lori. Uh, and happy birthday, dude. Whoever the dude is. Anyway, we will move on. What else is in the news today? What else is? Well, we don't want to. We don't really care about. I know. I don't. I want to stay away from politics if I can, just for today. Just because it's so fucking frustrating. Nothing's ever changing, and all we get is like barking mad dogs on Twitter all day long, all the barking dogs. There are things that are going on though that I am now. Antifa was trending today. I don't know why, but I think, this is getting back into politics. I thought it was in the entertainment realm because so many people in entertainment were coming out and declaring themselves, "I am Antifa." Uh, Kid Rock is trending today. Why is Kid Rock trending? I have no idea why Kid Rock would be trending, or why he's even relevant at this point, in any way. Anybody know why Kid Rock is trending today? Ted Nugent is trending, and Kid Rock both trending together. Well, stupidity must be the order of the day, I guess. Then, because you don't get two more like untalented, lucky, privileged assholes than those two guys. Facebook told me it's your birthday, a dog's birthday. Did you already forget? I'm trying to. Um, definitely trying to. I don't make a big thing of my birthday too much. I just look at it as this is 64 begins now. So I'm in my 64th year. Will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64? Uh, uh, Dean is Antifa, and one hell of a dancer. He's the dancing Antifa. He's Antifa's dancing mascot. Dean doing the moonwalk. Very cool stuff. We'll see tomorrow. Even though he says he does not dance on demand, we'll get him to dance. We'll just keep playing the reggae, and we'll just keep making it louder and louder until he feels compelled. He feels the beat. He gets into it. I really am looking forward to talking to Dean about this reggae dancing. Ooh, Cool in the Gang song, reggae dancing, #1 hit. A lot of people don't remember it because I play it every once in a while, and people look at it like I kind of remember that song, but I don't remember that song. Ooh, reggae dancing, let's go dancing, reggae dancing. Ooh la la la. Cool in the Gang. I don't remember what year it was. Probably like 1980. Uh, oh well, this is good news. Kevin says his dad died at 64. That's encouraging. I thought I was going to die at 54, so if I die at 64, um, I don't know what that means. Maybe that means they're off by 10 years. That's what it means. I guess it is, William. Yes, today is my birthday. Thank you for the birthday wishes. Again, I don't make a big deal of it. My birthday party was last night. I took my grandson out crabbing. again, second time. He's never been crabbing before last week. What is this? Carl should have uh, had us make videos singing Happy Birthday. No, I don't think Carl knows this is my birthday. It's like, um, and no, that you know what? Thank you all for whoever participated in that video that Carl put together. Very touching. Uh, the highlight, of course, is Steve, who went through all the trouble to do the professional makeup artist and script the whole thing out. Uh, Cats was very entertaining, but Steve takes the cake. I have to say, Steve definitely takes the cake. Uh, so yeah, so last night took the grandson crabbing. Now we're catching a lot, but they were all really small. We were taking them, measuring. They have to be 4.5 inches in order to be a keeper, and they can't be females with eggs. Caught a lot of those females with eggs, but small ones. So almost everyone was a throwback. They look so huge when they're swimming in the water. You get them in the net, you pull them up, and they're like, it's 4.2 inches, 4.1 inches, whatever. They got to be 4.5 at least at a minimum. And even at 4.5, they're not that big. But so I said to the dock master there last night, what's going on? Why, everything's so small here? Is it just too late in the season? And his take on this, and of course, the guy's not a biologist or environmental scientist in any way. I know. I think he's probably lucky to have graduated middle school, to be honest with you. But he said his take on it is that they're just out there all day long, boats and people all day long, all night long, from the time the season begins in late June, just scooping up every crab that's in the bay. And so what we're seeing is all that's left right now, which is really sad. I mean, because he said so many people are just violating the rules. They're taking the pregnant females. They're taking the small ones. So they're raping the bay, which is very selfish. It's very not forward thinking, and definitely not a good way uh, for the humans to protect the environment so that there will be food sources for future generations. I don't want to get on this whole environmental kick, but that part of it, very troubling to see, because usually this time of year, the last couple of weeks of blue crab season, the crabs are bigger, not smaller. You're not just getting, next year's babies before they head down to the Carolinas to get big and strong. You're getting, full on adult crabs. And now that was not the case. So we came home empty-handed, but it was a fun night, and it's a memory. I like seeing my brother. I told my brother about it. He said, "Oh, you got a kid to go crabbing with." He said, "Can I borrow him?" Uh, it's great to see a 10-year-old experiencing new things and excited about it. And I guess that's what life is all about. So uh Carl Man says, "Happy birthday, you round-headed bozo." I believe it's thank you, but I believe it's baritone bozo. I'm not really round-headed. I'm oval-headed. Remember. Uh, Good morning, Carl. Today, if you are just joining me and don't know, Mark Masters from Vail, Colorado, will be joining me. Mark is a accomplished comedian who hosts Vail Comedy once a month, and Vail Comedy is a showcase that features some of the top comedians in America, in the world, on a monthly basis, and he hosts it. He's also the host of um, a live streaming comedy showcase. I believe that's once a week. Um, and so that will be an interesting conversation. He'll be here probably in about a half hour from now. So looking forward to that. Have not met Mark. I've gotten acquainted with him just by watching some stuff He's done online. He's got a YouTube channel that we'll talk about. We'll talk about the Vail, Colorado thing. He also books and rooms in Colorado, and is a mover and shaker in the comedy business. Just putting that out there for people who are, hey, wait a minute, I want to play areas in Colorado. I want to play Vail. Vail's a great place to play. If you know any comedians, I don't. It's not like I know any comedians. Football's around. Whatever you guys use on Napo's shape. That's not really true. There's no point on my head or on my chin. What we use for football, footballs are not round. Soccer balls are round, and butterflies are free. But this is Kevin's last day of freedom for a while. He's going to jail. We realized that Kevin went down to Texas and was smoking marijuana with Joe Rogan, and he will be doing time for that, unfortunately. Rogan isn't. Rogan's off free. He's got free because he's Joe Rogan. He can't get arrested. But Kevin will be going to jail. I think he'll be doing 10 years maximum security in Texas, which is kind of sad. And he's spending his last day of freedom in watching this show. My last day of freedom, I'm going to jail. I probably would find something better to do than to spend it with me. Anyway, yeah, you're all ears except for your face, the rest of your face and your body. You're not all ears. I will be talking to you later on today, William, about things we discussed. By the way, about New York, back in the New York groove, the New York music scene, the New York comedy scene, the New York scene of scenes. Let's call it a scene cut. I'm going to play the my sponsor's piece today. You know who? Guess who's back with us? You know, I haven't talked about this in a while, but today it's very good coffee, very very good coffee, and it's the best coffee that I've had in probably 2 months because today I made Koa Coffee. And Koa Coffee. Speaking of Hawaii, how did I not segue into this earlier? Because I'm still half asleep. That's how. Speaking of Hawaii, Koa Coffee is the pride of Hawaii. There's no spam. There's no spam included in Koa Coffee. It doesn't come canned. It comes whole bean. How does it come? It comes like. Do I even have? Something to show you about how it comes. It's just like really smoking hot beans in a bag. No, I don't. I thought I did. Anyway, Koa Coffee, best coffee in America according to Forbes magazine. Let's check them out. This episode is brought to you by Koa Coffee. If you are a coffee connoisseur and want to experience the best coffee Hawaii has to offer, no blends, no compromise, try the true taste of Aloha. Koa Coffee produces premium Hawaiian coffee, hand-picked, expertly roasted, and delivered from Hawaii to your door with Aloha. From award-winning 100% Kona coffee grown on the slopes of the Mauna Loa volcano to the unique mocha beans of Maui, they strive to provide their loyal customers with the best quality and freshness. Since 1997, Koa Coffee has been known far and wide as a product of utmost quality, and their awards prove it. Koa Coffee was featured in Forbes' Top 10 Coffees of the World. This is the coffee Forbes called the best coffee in America. Find out what it's all about. Go to minddogtv.com/coffee. Maybe that commercial goes just a little too long, you think? I don't know. I kind of like having the girl run on the beach, even though it's not saying anything about the brand. Koa Coffee, get yours. You can go to minddogtv.com/coffee. And there's a link right there. There's a link in the description. Get your cold coffee. It will help keep the show alive for another 200 episodes. Today is episode 201, which I'm surprised we made it this far. Every day, I'll be honest with you, every day I wake up and think, I ought to quit. I ought to quit. I mean, what's the point of this? Where's it going? Why am I doing this? So it's a daily conversation I have to have. Well, maybe we'll go one more week. We'll go one more week, see how it goes. So I'm surprised we made it to 200 yesterday, and today's 201. And we're on. I'll be really shocked if I make it to 300. Not that. In the beginning, it was just about getting up. I hated getting up. It's a lot of work, and I love many of the guests that we've had on the morning program, and I love that the chat room is more interactive for the morning stuff. There are some really good things about it, but it's really difficult to book my A-list for the morning show, because everybody I approach about this stuff, and I have approached a lot of famous comedians, names that you would know and have huge followings. They just don't want to do it because it's too early for them. So I'm caught between. Well, that's my show that features comedians. It's the morning show, and comedians don't want to get up to do it, especially if they're on the West Coast. Now, maybe I should be trying to feature more people in the UK because it's midday for them. That's a possibility. I don't know a whole lot of UK comedians. And the ones I do are more film oriented than like stand up oriented, you know. And listen, Ricky Gervais is not going to do my podcast, no matter how much I beg him. Well, I shouldn't say that. That's a defeatist attitude, isn't it? I just caught myself being 3 times a week, and yeah, maybe. I don't know. Howard Stern was trending last night, I think it was, and I could not figure out why. When I got home from crabbing, I was looking at, and Howard Stern was trending on Twitter, and there didn't seem to be any. Thank you for a happy 200. I guess it's something to be happy about. I couldn't figure out for the life of me why Howard was trending last night. It's always a mystery how they decide this thing. People just decide to talk about people, but for no consistent reason. Like one person had this to say about Howard Stern, and somebody had this to say about Howard Stern. One thing, no consistent reason why people are trending, which is kind of weird. How that happens all at once. You try to look for what triggers us as a society to be all on the same subject, and generally you can understand it when it's like civil war, which was trending this morning in politics, because that's what we're talking about in the United States. Oddly enough, we're talking about civil war, and we're not because Ken Burns did a documentary, but because various political factions are bringing up the prospect of rioting in the streets and violence if that guy gets arrested or indicted, which is just, it is what. But so you can understand why Civil War was trending. I can't understand why Howard Stern was trending, because there was no. It's not like he came out and did anything, said anything specifically. Just people decided for different reasons to talk about Howard Stern. Very, very odd stuff. Let's see what else is going on. Louis J. Gomez, following him on Twitter. Interesting little Twitter spat he got himself into. Well, it was a mass shooting 2 days ago. Mike Zinn. Good morning, Mike Zinn. In Oregon, I believe it was. Where was it? Louis J. Gomez. I almost lost this. Now, see, this is the clinical memory loss stuff that needs to be looked at, because I almost lost Louis J. Gomez in that fast. But a couple of days ago, it might have been yesterday, Louis J. Gomez in a Twitter spat about corporal punishment for children. Hitting your kid, slapping your kid, spanking your kid. And I gotta say this, I agree with everything that J. Gomez was talking about, because he's calling it child abuse, telling somebody who spanks their kid that, what it is just losing control. If you can't out-reason a 9-year-old, if you can't uh, control a 9-year-old with intellect rather than violence, you're losing control. And he was trying to make this argument to somebody and calling corporal punishment for children child abuse. Now, understand. Good morning, Christina. Thank you for the happy birthday. Um, understand this. Now, people like me from my generation, and my father only slapped me once. He slapped me because I was suspended from school in 6th grade for distributing alcohol. With I was also drinking it, but I got suspended because I got caught distributing it to my friends who got caught drinking it and ratted me out. But so I got suspended for distributing alcohol in 6th grade, and my father slapped me upon me getting home from school that day uh, because it was his booze. I was stealing it from him. I'm thinking, well, he was really disappointed in me too. But so I got slapped just that once. Now I have to say, at the time, it was pretty fucking traumatic for me. Um, just it wasn't that it hurt that bad. It was just the shock of it and feeling like, what, that's the punishment. But it wasn't a tough slap. But I got over it. And so people from my age, I guess this is where I'm trying to go with this, came up with accepting that. And it was an accepted general form of parenting. Most people believed in spankings. And so if you grew up in that, and somebody like Louis J. Gomez is calling it child abuse, then he's calling your parents a child abuser, which is not necessarily accurate or helpful to the discussion. Times change, attitudes change, people evolve, we get smarter, we learn new things. It wasn't widely studied as a form of abuse. It was generally thought that it was a good way to administer discipline into children at the time. And so, if that is the cultural belief, it's hard to label that as abuse. Because the people doing it don't think they're doing it for abuse. They think they're doing it, and this is true. A lot of them. It wasn't about losing the temper. Now, I'll soften that with, in some cases, it was just people just plain out losing their temper. A lot of fathers, the belt buckle thing. There were times when fathers just lost their temper. Mothers too. Mothers would throw shit at you, that kind of stuff. But they weren't thinking that it was a form of abuse. They were thinking that that's a proper way to teach a child discipline. So the argument going back and forth was Louis J. Gomez saying everything that right about how it feels from the child's perspective and what we've learned about the psychology of spankings and all that stuff, and how it isn't effective. And the best way to teach children is really through being smarter. We've learned that, but he was making that case, but doing it so poorly by just insulting this woman, calling her a piece of shit, and saying, you're the kind of piece of shit who believes in child abuse. Not a helpful way, and definitely not a way to use your influence to get people on your side when you're making a case like that. And this went on for a good day, back and forth with Louis J. Gomez and some unknown woman who was talking about spanking her child. And it was just so interesting to watch the conversation because here I am agreeing with every point Louis J is making, but could see right through the fact that this is going nowhere. This woman is never going to hear what he's saying because he's just insulting her with every good point he makes. He undoes it by just calling her a total piece of shit and just dismissing um, what she grew up with, what she believes, and why she has not got on board with the whole idea of not hitting children. So, sometimes Twitter, beyond entertainment, if you're looking at it objectively, you can learn and learn not only about things like not using corporal punishment to teach children, but you can also learn a little bit about influencing and human dynamics and how to hold a conversation with somebody without it being a complete waste of fucking time. Where and listen, I'm not saying I have not been guilty of it, but and I have absolutely been guilty of it. But to see it in front of you and watch it play out in those kind of terms, uh, eye-opening. It's eye-opening. If you don't follow him already, I would, just go back and look at that. Good morning, Kat. Good to see you waking up. It's only 9:47 a.m. It's like 12 hours before your wake-up time, right? Uh, are we having a song this week, Kat? Are you going to do a song? Are you taking requests? Because I got a song for you. I don't. My equipment is not here, which I told the story before. It's not a story. Yesterday I brought my equipment out to play a gig, and my equipment that would have my acoustic guitar hooked up through this system here. Went out to play a gig at the VA, only to find out it's tomorrow. I drove all the way there, set the whole thing up. So I don't have my guitar here, but I would have a song request for you. Thinking of going through stuff last night, like this would be a good song to hear Kat do her weekly thing with. I came up with I don't know the name of it. I'm gonna. It's Mary Tyler Moore's music theme from her. Who can turn the world on with a smile? You know that one. Who can take a nothing day and suddenly make it all seem worthwhile? Well, it's you, girl. I'm gonna sing it to Dean tomorrow. I want to sing it to Dean tomorrow in a reggae style and see if I can get him up and dancing. You girl, and you should know it. What you're gonna make it after all. I don't know if that's the name of the song. I don't know the name of the song. You never know I rarely know the name of songs of um television themes, and I play a lot of television themes, but I just call it the theme from that show. I don't really know what the actual name of the song is. Uh, William Conway on Spanking. Now, don't get don't confuse spanking with spanking. That's all I'm just saying. There's spanking a kid and then spanking your wife when she asks for it. And I don't mean ask for it by being mischievous. I mean literally ask for please spank me. Uh, we, I think I spanked my son maybe 5 times when he was younger, only when he had done something super dangerous. Well, Louis J. Gomez would have nothing but just scorn for you and putting you down. Uh, Kat says she likes themes because they're short and easier to learn. Yeah, we do welcome back a lot. That goes over well. Mikey and I do welcome back from Welcome Back Cotter. What else do we do? Um, Chico and the Man, Freddie Prinze. Um, I guess we're stuck in the 70s, aren't we? I used to do the Sanford thing. Now Sanford requires some really good 2 harmonicas, a bass harmonica and a regular harmonica, regular blues harp. Uh, that's a tough one to do. to do right if you don't have both of those things. Now, Kevin is saying, yeah, Lewis will get in a fight on the street while his kids with him. Really, I did not know that. But that's a whole other thing. That's a whole other issue. And yeah, listen, we're all hypocrites in a lot of ways. We are a lot. I mean, if you analyze somebody's life, and I'm not saying Louis J. Gomez is any moral compass in any way, or uh, here to teach us psychology. I was just saying I was agreeing with the points that he was making about not hitting your kid with this woman, but the way he was making it was you could see, again, if you step back, you can see how futile the argument is, because even though he's making correct points and you agree with him on the points he's making, you can see how it's not going to sell, because if I call you an asshole and a dipshit and a piece of shit and a useless mother or whatever, you're not going to hear the reasons that I'm saying why hitting your child is probably not the most effective way to teach him, or least abusive way to teach them about discipline. You're not going to hear that. All you can hear is that this guy calling you and your entire generation and your parents' generation evil, ugly people. That's all you hear. You don't get the message. Uh, Kevin come back with. He was neglected and probably abused as a kid, so I get why he was so viscerally reacting to it. He has trauma and he hasn't dealt with it still. Possibly. It's really hard to be a psychologist at a distance for people. I'm guilty of that all the time. And this is why some people are afraid. That's am I putting it this way? Some people are actually afraid to talk to me. Some people, and they've expressed this. Not they didn't say they were afraid. They were nervous about talking to me because on the evening program, I do get serious enough and introspective. Ask them to get introspective enough and probe the psychology of my guests sometimes, like, and in a way that sometimes can feel like, what are you doing, therapy on me? I think we did a little bit of fun with Zin on the Padasan the other day with that, but I do have a tendency to do that and kind of, and so I don't know if I would kind of just jump to that conclusion that maybe he's got trauma that was unresolved about that stuff. He did seem to be making jokes about it and all that stuff. Uh, his grandma called him the N word. Uh, yeah, well, that's different than getting hit, isn't it? And he's not even black, is he? You know what? A lot of people in my neighborhood use that word for people who aren't black all the time. It's kind of weird. Want to make Lewis look bad? Have a football throwing competition with him. Really? He doesn't throw a football well? I don't know about this stuff. You guys follow him closer than I do, I guess. Uh, have him hit a little leaguer's pitch. Really? I thought he was kind of an athlete. Isn't he like a black belt or something? I don't know this. I don't really follow the guy that close. And to be honest with you, um, that was as close as I've ever followed him. Was just this thing on Twitter the other day. So if you're saying he's a rotten athlete, that's kind of surprising to me, um, because you would think. And again, maybe I'm wrong about this. But I thought he was a jujitsu guy. You would think that takes some athleticism. You would think, but not necessarily. There are people who get into martial arts who are not naturally athletic. But once you start, I don't know, practicing the discipline of the art, you got to become more more athletic in some way, more athletically inclined. What is Dean saying about Nancy Sinatra? I thought Some Velvet Morning or Summer Wine by Nancy Sinatra and Lee Hazelwood. You know what? I had never heard Some Velvet Morning before Craig brought it up. And to me, it sounds like two different songs, two different parts of songs, really small segments of songs that were put together and just repeated three times to make a song. I mean, you got him singing this really odd thing in one key for a short segment, and then she comes in and sings in a completely different key, a different medley for another segment, another really short segment, and then they just put those two segments together and looped them three times, and that became a song. And I never heard the song before, and I'm pretty. Listen, I communicate with Nancy Sinatra. I've asked her to be on the evening program three times now. So I'm a fan of hers, is what I basically am getting at. And I never heard that song. Um, and I don't think it was necessarily a song. I think it was a desperate attempt to put two little segments of songs together. That happened a lot in the 60s. The Bee Gees talked about that. Some of their biggest hits were just ideas. Like, oh, we got this idea over here. Why don't we just put them together and then loop it, like do it three times in a row, and you got a song, make a hit out of it. Um, as I mentioned, we do Nancy Sinatra with the band, with the Rockin' 45s. We do it with Mikey singing Nancy Sinatra stuff. We do a medley of These Boots Are Made for Walking into Led Zeppelin's Whole Lotta Love, where Mikey sings the Nancy Sinatra parts and Kiera, originally Janet, sang the Whole Lotta Love part. We do, so we do some of that stuff, saying something stupid. Frank Sinatra and Nancy Sinatra duets. Phantom Nancy Sinatra. Uh, I don't think she was like all that hot, like some people said the other day when that song came up. But I had never heard that song. Anyway, I'm going to put this out there really quickly before my guest gets here. It's a story I think I've told on a podcast, or maybe two, or maybe seven, or maybe 100. Who knows? But putting it out there really as quickly as I can for Tom Kanopka, who last night was watching The Great Escape, and he listed some of the people on there, and James Coburn was one of them. I said, "Did I ever tell you my James Coburn story?" He said, "No, I alluded to it, but I never told the story." So I'm certain I've told the story, but I'm going to do it as quickly as I can for Tom's benefit, and I'll point out to him that somewhere around the hour mark in this program, you can hear it. 1997, Rick James, Tina Marie, uh, playing the House of Blues in Sunset Strip in L.A., and I was there as a guest of the head of security, and so we watched the show, and then after the show, we were up in the VIP lounge. A lot of celebrities up there, and Dan Aykroyd was there, and there were several people who were famous, and I was there with the people from the cult, the Barbara Brennan School of Healing. We were there. I brought some of them there, and one of the guys who worked for me, this guy Frank, was with me, and I was standing there like feeling out of place because in a room full of celebrities, I often feel out of place. And Frank says to me, "Don't look now, but in like Flint wants to have a word with you." And I looked over, and James Coburn is standing next to me, and he's taller than me, and he's kind of looking down at me. And he's looking a little like angry, like I'm not saying hello. He's angry that I'm not saying hello to him, and I'm feeling uncomfortable now. Like James Coburn is mad at me for some reason, and I have no. I kind of turned away for a second. He goes, and Frank said, "No, he wants to talk to you." I looked over at him, and he's still got this like scowl on his face. So, how's it going, Jim? What's up? He goes, I'm here. I'm bringing a screenplay back to the bartender. You know, everybody's got a film. Oh, that's interesting. He goes, what about you? You doing anything? I was like, just hanging out after the show. James Coburn talking to me as if he knows me. And Frank, he comes over and he whispers at me. He goes, he thinks you're Bruce Willis. I don't look like Bruce Willis. No, trust me. He thinks you're Bruce Willis. I was like, no, there's no way he's not that. He's not fucking crazy. He said, no, believe me, he thinks you're Bruce Willis. So he's talking to me for a while, conversation going on, and somebody comes over and says, hey, Mr. Colbert, can I get a picture with you? I'm here talking to my friend. And he blows him off. And we ended the conversation, and I was like, that was really weird. And Frank's telling me, no, I swear, I'm telling you, he thought you were Bruce Willis, that whole conversation. I was like, where are you getting this from? So we were out on the deck, the House of Blues, the outside deck for the VIP room, and Coburn decides he's going to sneak out the back, so he, and go down that way. And as he's leaving, guy comes up to him and goes, Mr. Coburn, please, just one picture. And Coburn turns around and he looks at me and goes, hey, Bruce, take a picture with this guy, will you? So, yeah, I guess some people thought I looked like Bruce Willis at the. I don't know if I had the mustache, to be honest with you, at the time. But I definitely, if I didn't have the mustache, though I had the mole, I wasn't wearing the glasses. But still, even without the glasses, without the mustache, you don't see Bruce Willis. Anyway, the very next night, Howard Stern was having a premiere party for Private Parts, the movie, at Billboard on Sunset. And we got invited to that. We had some connections out there that were inviting us to all these shows. And so Slash had an all-star band that was playing this party for Howard Stern, after party for his movie premiere of Private Parts. And I walked into the room at Billboard, and Slash yells from the stage, hey, Bruce, did you bring a harp with you? They were about to do a blues song. And I guess, and so all I said was, I'm not Bruce. And it got the biggest laugh of anything I've ever done in my life. And I wasn't trying to be funny, obviously. I'm not Bruce. And the whole room erupted in laughter, like the best stand-up bit I've ever done was just 3 little words. I'm not Bruce. Speaking of stand-up, it's time to move on. So that's out there for Tom Kanopka, who I have not told that story to. Speaking of stand-up, my guest today, Mark Meadows, is Colorado's second cleanest comedian, which means he has good hygiene. But what does that say about his comedy? He's a comedy club headliner and dive bar open micer. He is the host of Veil Comedy, which features some of the best comedians in the world. He's an internet host of I believe, weekly comedy showcase online, and he's here now. Please open your ears, open your minds, and help me welcome in Mark Masters to Coffee with the Dog. Mark, welcome.
Hey, good morning. How are you doing? Can you hear me okay? How's the sound?
Yeah, it sounds good. Sounds like radio.
Awesome.
How you doing?
AM or FM?
FM.
FM. All right. High quality. All right.
Yeah, except I was never an FM guy. That's a whole other story. They kicked just as I was getting to the height of my radio career. We used to be an AM FM station on both AM and FM, and they split apart and said, "No, you're going to be on the AM side, and FM's coming here." And they left me on AM all by myself. It was really a traumatic experience. Anyway, it's good to have you here.
Yeah.
Second cleanest comedian in Colorado. Who's the first?
Well, you have to come see me on stage. I got a bit about that, but let's just say it's clean with fun. You come out and see me, you're gonna have some laughs, you're gonna have a good time, but it's also okay to have your parents or grandparents or your boss around.
All right. Well, does that mean I can't goad you into doing anything slightly dirty?
No, you can do whatever you want. Do whatever the F you want. I don't know. It's your show, man.
I know. I want to hear. I just want. I don't know why, but I feel compelled.
I do swear. People always, like, open mic comics in Denver, always asking me, like, "Do you ever swear, Mark?" Because they never see me swear on stage. And I'm like, "Yeah, around women and small children, like frustrating experiences. I'll swear, but just not on stage."
Are you married?
I'm not. I am
Uh,
not.
is that an essential to be successful in comedy?
Uh, it doesn't hurt. I have a great partner, real supporter, which is helpful. I mean, I think it's hard. I work with a lot of comedians that are married, have kids. You know, it's when you have comedies, it's a tough, solitary pursuit. Sometimes you're on your own quite a bit, so it's nice to have a rock somewhere else. But it's also, it distracts, and there are people out there grinding, hitting shows and mics 7, 8 days a week, and the ones who don't have any distractions seem to I don't know, they kind of do better. But on the other hand, like life experience is such an important part of stand-up comedy. People who talk about their kids on stage are hilarious. They have great stories, and
That's true. So, I think though, and it's an interesting kind of conversation for me, is that comedians, the especially trying to make it comedians, if you're not, you're not a well-known national name, it can be the loneliest pursuit in entertainment or in the arts completely. I mean, you're out there. So, and I know sometimes artists are alone in the studio, but they're not on the road with 1 hour of work to do and 23 hours of lonely time to fill. And I think that plays into a very hard way to make life work with other people who are miles away or at a distance and all that kind of stuff. It's a really difficult life to live. So.
yeah, I imagine technology has made it a lot easier. I can't imagine doing this like 30 years ago. You got video chat now, and it's easy to make a phone call. You don't have to go find a phone booth to
Right.
call a loved one. So
Do you do a lot of traveling, or you just stay close to home?
yeah, I sure do. I try and get out on the road like about once a month to keep myself sane. So I'm not always on the road because I beat myself up when I'm out there. I'm trying to save money, and sleeping in my car sometimes, and
Uh,
so
really?
yeah. But I get out
Still?
there. I just did a trip to California, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Sleep. I can't. I mean, I did that when I was extremely young. I mean, 20,
It's
20.
not that bad. Now when people think he's sleeping in his car, they might think I'm like in the driver's seat, just like my neck cricked, whatever. I have like a platform and a small bed. I have a station wagon, and I put the passenger seat all the way up, and I've improved it over the years. The very first
Station
time I
wagon.
slept in my car, I actually slept in like the trunk of the station wagon. It was the most uncomfortable. It was awful.
Yeah.
But then I added like a yoga mat underneath me, and then I increased that by putting a small mattress, like a single, or maybe it's a twin mattress over the yoga mat, and then I added a platform, like a nice, because the problem then was it's not completely flat in the back of your car for like 6 feet, where the car seat goes down, it's at an incline, so you're now like sleeping in like a V shape. So then I made a plywood platform to level things out, and then you got the yoga mat, and then you got the mattress, and I got sheets. What a improvement that was, and I got a blanket for the winter, and I got a freezing sub-zero temperature sleeping bag for when it's freezing cold out. But I have a new rule now that if it's below freezing, I get a motel. I
Uh,
just like I when you wake up, anybody out there who slept in their car overnight in the freezing cold, the worst part about it is chiseling ice off the inside of your windshield.
yeah.
I had no idea that was going to be a thing. So now I have like a miniature chisel because you can't get that big, like 4 foot. It's hard to operate inside the
I
car
am
with.
so impatient with that. I'm the kind of guy who will just chip out a little hole that I could see and then try to
Yeah.
drive that
I
way.
got pulled over once for driving an unsafe vehicle because I hadn't scraped
Yeah.
enough. There's a lot of snow. That was up in the Aspen area. Uh, but I had to do like a 2 minute drive, and I was like, I can do this without even looking. I know exactly where I'm going. And I
Right.
chiseled off the bare minimum, and I got pulled over. But
Yeah.
luckily, no ticket. Pretty nice police out there.
Yeah, I remember because, and I hear what you said. Station wagon though kind of surprised me. I don't think I've seen a station wagon in many years. You say you
You
have a
have it's a Subaru Outback,
yeah, okay,
so
yeah,
they're
yeah, yeah.
they're around. Where you're out in L.A.? Is that where you are?
No, I'm in Shoreham, Long Island, New York.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'm
Maybe you don't have. Yeah, you guys get snow. You probably have Outbacks out there, Subarus.
Yeah, I'm certainly do, but when I think of the word, I don't think of
Yeah,
equate
you're
that in
thinking of
my
like
mind.
Chevy Chase
Yeah.
and Family Vacation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like station wagon, that's what that is. I was like, "Wow, I don't think I've seen one of those. Get the kids in the
hatchback.
back and let's go on vacation."
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm in a place which is it's very rural. People hear New York and they think, "Wow, you're in New York." No, I am so far removed from New York City. I am in Green Acres, where I am. It's like completely rural and far removed from all that stuff. So there's not a lot of comedy here. Um, and the comedy scene, people ask me about the comedy scene in New York, and it's like, I could be wrong because I don't get to Manhattan or a lot, but I know Long Island, and it's been becoming monopolized. And like, same thing happened with music clubs around for a while back, is where one owner decided I'm going to take over this. I don't want any competition, and buying all and Governors Comedy Club. We're on Governors this morning. Governors is the 3 comedy clubs on Long Island right now. Do you have that? Is that in Colorado? Is that going on? Like, you
Mul-
see, yes,
Multiple clubs. Is that?
yeah, multiple clubs by one
Yeah.
owner.
Not with one. Well, Comedy Works has 2 locations. They have the downtown location and the south location, which is a little larger space. So they get some bigger names there. It's a little more theater style. So they own 2 clubs. But then you got the Improv, and then in Colorado Springs you got Looney's and 3E's, and that's about an hour drive away. And south, and then north, about an hour drive away, you got the Fort Comedy Club. So we have a decent. It's a good amount of. I think there's great opportunity for stage time in Colorado.
Right. And you are also involved in the business end of it somewhat because you're booking for the Veil thing, right? And uh,
Yeah.
what is that? What do you learn as a comedian once you change hats and now you're kind of on the business end side of it
Oh,
for other comedians? Does it change your perspective at all?
oh yeah. It really emphasizes, like, people kind of know this intuitively, not to be an a-hole and to be like a good, decent person. But man, it makes such a difference when there's so much great comedy out there. And I can book about 10 headliners a year for the Vale Comedy Show. It's a monthly show. And there are hundreds of comedians that I would love to get in that spot. So,
Right.
like, how do you differentiate at that point? And people who are cool and nice, they kind of float to the top. Or a better way of saying it is, if you're a jerk, you're definitely going to the bottom of the list.
Right.
So just be reliable, show up on time a little bit early, communicate well. Those things help. I mean, obviously, be funny, but then once you hit the funny mark, you have to differentiate yourself somehow. And I think just being nice and cool is a
Right.
is a
Do you book people who are not clean comics
Oh
also?
yeah, all the
Yeah.
time. Filthy. Our next comic, September 15th, ValeComedyShow.com, is Steph Tolev. She is dirty as hell. She's filthy. She opens for Bill Burr. She was just on the Netflix special. Bill Burr presents Friends Who Kill. She just performed for 20,000 people
Wow.
last week in Toronto at the NHL and NBA arena in Toronto, Canada. 20,000 people, and she's going to be doing my little 100-person bar show.
Have you
Um,
ever done anything like that? Because that's not a comedy venue. You're there for sports fans doing
oh, I've
comedy.
done some weird venues, man. Let me
Like,
tell you. Like,
uh,
in terms of size, the biggest I've ever done is a 750-person theater. So I can't even imagine 20,000. That would be so fun. I mean, just the volume of laughter. I've been in a 300-person room before where it felt like the laughter was going to like push me backwards.
right.
I don't know if that was like an illusion, but I really felt like waves of laughter hitting me in
Energy.
the
I
chest.
get
It
it.
was
Yeah. No, I've been lucky enough to been on some stages where had like massive crowds. Like they weren't there to see me, believe me,
Yeah.
but
But I've done a
massive.
bowling alley. I've done all kinds of weird venues. Tea
But
shop.
the sporting events thing, like you're playing for fans that people that aren't necessarily comedy fans in any way. That's just got to be a
No, yeah, they're out there. No, they're buying a ticket to see comedy. So it's
Oh,
not
okay.
like it's not like halftime at an NBA show.
Oh, I thought it was she was at a NBA,
No, it's just in an arena. It's a comedy show for Bill Burr that sold out. 20,000
Oh,
people
okay.
paid good money to see comedy, and she's performing on stage. I
Wow.
can't wait to hear about it. I can't wait to talk to her about it in a couple weeks.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. I had Steve Byrne on the program. We talked about him opening at Red Rocks for
Ah,
For Kanye West. Now that is a very difficult thing to do because they're there to see Kanye
yeah.
and not there to see comedy in any way,
Yeah, that
shape, or
seems less common these days. I'm reading a book right now called Mock Stars, and it was published in 2008, and it's about the rise of independent comedy. And it talks a lot about some comics that toured with bands. Like that used to be a real common thing in the 90s.
yeah.
They would just, instead of having three bands on a lineup, they'd have a band and a comic. And it was cheaper for the headlining band to just bring a comic with them. And in the book, it makes it sound like the fans loved it, but I get the impression that would be a very difficult gig.
Well, I have a friend who toured with Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. He's been on the program a couple of times, and he was talking about how it was rough at the beginning. Graham Nash had to come out and like lecture the audience to be open and accepting of this and just go with it and appreciate the art for what it is. He said after
Yeah,
Graham did that a couple of times, audiences started to warm up to it. But
nice.
it's a
Yeah, they
weird.
call that ambush comedy when the audience isn't expecting it, and
Yeah.
it's hard on everybody. It's not good for the audience. It's not good for the comedians. I've definitely
Right.
been in that situation. I was at a car show once, outdoors, doing comedy, and really nobody cared.
Right. Tell me about Vail. What? Because I think of Vail, and I was there once again with a cult.
Huh.
Uh, but and so naturally, the exposure that I had to Vail was very new age. I'm talking. I was there in the '90s, and it was with a new age healing. I'll call them a
Well,
cult.
it did wonders for your hair growth. I
I
can
know.
see that.
Well, I was bald then, but I've been bald a long, long time. But the idea that I got, it was a very, I don't know, hippie. It made me that's a outdated word, but very, I don't know, liberal arts, artsy type of
I
community.
don't know,
Is it
man.
that?
Vale's it's at least it's changed maybe. Because it skews wealthy, probably a little more Republican conservative just because of the money. Although there are a good amount of liberal folks there. It's a fancy ski resort town.
Right, a lot
With
of tourists,
what's that?
a lot of tourists, tourism.
A lot of tourists, they call them guests in Vail. They don't like the word tourists for some reason. Guests, a lot of guests in Vail. I think when you spend like $1,000 a day, you get elevated from
Oh, I
tourist
get it.
to
Yeah,
guest.
don't
It's a,
call me a
it's an
tourist.
expensive
Call me.
place to visit. A lot of great working locals as well. This is a really good community. It's a really nice place and just stunningly beautiful at all times of the year. Right now, it's the summer season. It's green. You might see a deer just walking by around dinner or a moose amble by. And then pretty soon the leaves are going to start changing on the aspen trees and it's going to be gorgeous. And there's just going to be like a field of yellow leaves on any hike you go on. And then it will start snowing, which is magical. And it's a really pretty place. It's cool.
That does sound really nice. Now, I always had my problem in Colorado in general was altitude messed with
Oh,
me so bad.
it's tough.
Are you born and raised in Colorado?
No, I grew up on the East Coast, but I've been out here about 25 years. So I'm definitely acclimated. And,
How long did it
but
take you?
Oh, a couple weeks, but I don't know because for the first couple years I was here, I lived in Denver and I would go up to the mountains, which can be 3,000 vertical feet higher.
Right,
Just driving from Denver to like Vail's 8,150 feet. And if you go to the top of the mountain, it's 10,000 plus, I believe. So that's like doubling the altitude. And I remember I used to have trouble when I'd go skiing. I'd get lightheaded and not feel great. So I don't know what that was about, but it
right,
generally takes a couple weeks. When the comics come out, you just tell them drink a lot of water, when we did the festival, there was a lot of drinking and people were there for 3 days. And it's just like, take it easy on the first night. It's like Las Vegas, just take it easy on the first night so you don't spoil the rest of the trip. The beers hit harder at high altitude. And
Yeah, that is definitely true, and that's where I was going with this. Because if I'm a road comic and I'm used to, I'm traveling around the country, and then I'm in this high altitude place, that can mess up my show a lot. Like if I'm not careful and don't prepare for it. So I would think sometimes if you're gonna play any place, if you're gonna play Vail, you should get there like 3 days early, 4 days early, and try to get used to it beforehand.
it's too expensive to do that, man. You gotta go in and go out. It's funny how, a lot of comics, they're like me on the video right now. They just stand in their position, they're in the pocket, and they just deliver their jokes. But there are others who are like really animated and act out and running around. And when they're up there, usually about 10, 15 minutes into the set, they're like, holy cow, it's different up here. I need a second to catch my breath.
Yeah. I've been there, and I've experienced that. Like, wow, I'm not usually short of breath. Is it me? Am I dying? What's going on? Am I having a heart attack and don't know it? It's one of those scary. It can be a little scary if you're not used to it, especially the very first time you're out there. Tell me about what you do now, because I got your YouTube channel going across the bottom there, and your website.
Yeah, thanks. I got
Markmasters.co.
markmasters.co.
Yeah.
Couldn't afford the .com. Pretty common. It's
I
CO
thought that
like
was a Canadian
Colorado.
thing, right? Or .co was, I thought it
It's
was Canadian. No,
it's CO like Colorado. I think it
right.
stands for company. I'm not
Oh, okay.
sure. But it's also CO like cholera if you're not very good at spelling.
Or CO for COVID. I'm sorry. Um, but so with the online stuff now on your YouTube channel, the very first playlist you have looks, and I'm not saying I don't want this to sound like I'm insinuating anything, but it looks like comedians in cars without the coffee.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, before the pandemic, when I was getting started in comedy, one of the things I would do is I'd grab a comic and we'd go on like an hour-long drive to a faraway open mic. And along the way, we'd talk about comedy and how they got into comedy. And at the time, I was a sponge. I was just trying to soak up as much knowledge and information as possible. And then we go to the mic, and then, on the way to the mic, we talk about what our plan was at the mic. And then after the mic, we talk about how it went. And then I decided, hey, I should probably stick a camera in the car and record these. And it's like free content,
Yeah,
basically. So I
it's
did a whole
fun.
series, a whole series of episodes. And towards the end, I got some kind of more famous headliners going on. But most of it's just, open mic comics, doing open mic comedy. There's some fun episodes in there.
Right. Yeah, but that's not the focus of your YouTube channel. Now, even though that's the top list, right? You're doing other things on the YouTube channel. Tell me about what your goals
Yeah,
and
sure.
what.
I have other content on the YouTube channel. I have a lot of stuff that's related to the Vale Comedy Show. After the shows, I usually, when you go to a good comedy show, and we're lucky, the Vale Comedy Show, after a lot of hard work, is a good show. We're in a great venue with low ceilings and tightly packed people. It's super dark, good lighting, good sound, and we fly in comics from New York and LA, and we put on a great show, and we keep it short, like never over an hour and a half show so the audience doesn't get tired. And when the show's over, they're sad, they want more. And so I usually videotape audience members and just say like, hey, what do you think of the show? And they're just effusive, you can see the glow in their face, and they're just so excited about the show. And so I make little compilation videos of people on stage and the audience talking about the show, kind of promos for Vale Comedy Show. And then
Interest,
I have some
Interesting.
other unlisted content, some private stuff that I give out to my Fakreon subscribers. What's Fakreon? Great question. So glad you asked. You probably heard of Patreon, which is a way that subscribers pay artists to for exclusive content, et cetera, and support them. I didn't want to do Patreon, but I set up my own Fakreon, which is very like hand rolled, organic. It's just a couple dollars a month. People send it to me manually by Venmo, and I have them in a little spreadsheet and an email campaign thing. And I send them videos from the road, just stories, funny things that are going on. And so if
Good for
anybody out
you.
there is
But I have to
interested,
ask why? Because Patreon's pretty simple, and I don't think they take a whole lot. What? Why
they
did?
take enough, and
Is
I
it?
want a more personal connection with
Uh,
the I don't want random complete strangers in this community, because I'm being pretty personal in this stuff. So generally it's somebody I've shook their hand at a show, or they've been part of an online experience with me, or they know me personally already. That's kind of describes the subscribers. I mean, eventually maybe I'll get big enough and migrate it to Patreon. But for
that's
now,
interesting.
if anybody watching is interested, it's just a couple dollars a month. And if you go to that website, markmasters.co, there's a form you can fill out a contact form, and I respond to every message that I get at this point.
Very cool. I appreciate that. And did want to come back to something you just said about keeping the show short, and I will come back to that. I'm just putting that out there in case my memory loss kicks
Okay,
in. And
I'll remind you.
yeah, but community building, and I think something about stand-up comedy uh, encourages people or makes people want to bring comedians into their life or have more of a personal connection with the comedian. It's different, I'm sure there are rock stars that have groupies and stuff like that, but it's different than groupies. It's like it's a sincere friendship thing. Now sometimes, people um might be a little more committed to the friendship than you are as the artist, the comedian. But I think the genuine feeling is more not that groupie-ishness, but it's like I really appreciate you. I'd like to have more of you in my life because you made me laugh, and laughter is such a valuable commodity to all of us, especially in crazy times that we live in. But something about being a stand-up comedy encourages that I want to be your friend more as much as your fan type of thing, and that's an interesting dynamic that you don't see in a lot of
Yeah,
other.
I think you're totally right. I think one of the reasons for that is that stand-up comedians, good stand-up comedians, are very personal on stage. They tell you a lot about their life. And so if it's a good show and you're in the audience, you feel like they're your friend.
Right,
That's what makes comedy work. Sometimes a lot of being on stage is charisma. Maybe that's not the right word, but it's like a relationship you have with the audience. And if they like you, they're going to laugh, and if they don't like you, trust me, they are not going to laugh.
right,
Okay. I've been to some oil towns and I won't name the states, and just came across as some liberal, big city kid, and I couldn't get a laugh to save my life.
right.
So
That same dynamic, though, doesn't. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'll get your opinion on this. But I think the same dynamic that makes you feel like this person is my friend. They're real being personal. That is what kind of drives heckling sometimes, is because people sometimes it's just alcohol, but sometimes
yes.
it's people feeling like, they forget they're in a room full of people who've also paid to see the show, and then they feel too personally connected to the comedian, feel like somehow they heard it in their mind that you've been invited to be in my life and in my show at the moment. And that kind of dynamic plays into the I want to have a conversation with you. I know you're in the middle of a show, but hey, how about that, and just bring up other things that they want you to talk about. It's really bizarre when you see that. I've seen it recently, and it turned
Yeah.
out really well for the comedian I saw do it, because it ended up being one of the funniest parts of the night, where he started having a conversation about a stripper bar across the street with the guy in the audience. But it's that whole dynamic of feeling like you're my friend is what kind of tricks those people into forgetting their place. Do you agree?
Yeah, I totally agree. It's tricky handling hecklers, and whether they're heckling, which is kind of like a negative verb, or just talking out loud, making comments. It can be distracting to comedians, but it also can lead to comedy gold, as you've indicated. I think
Yeah,
the best laughs at a comedy show are usually when it feels like something is happening that nobody will ever experience again. So
right.
I have a bit about a garlic press, and I've told that bit in 20 different cities around the country. I've told it hundreds of times. If you see me tell that bit, it's probably going to be the same in San Francisco as it is in Long Island.
Right.
But if I'm talking to an audience member about a local burger joint down the street and I start making fun of that, or I'm talking about the room, making fun of the environment that we're in, that's only going to happen in that small venue, big venue, doesn't matter. And people can, whether they know it psychologically, if they're aware of it or not, they will laugh harder. That's half of what you do on stage, is just measuring people's laughs and how much fun people are having. And it's definitely a pattern I've observed, that folks laugh harder when things are unique and
Right.
fresh to the situation.
I think my one of my bugaboos for me personally is I'm too analytical, so I will be try to become aware of those things too much, and that ruins the experience. You gotta kind of just experience it naturally, then try to be an analyst in in a lot of these situations, especially with stand up comedy. Like, what made that funny, and I will obsess about what made a joke funny, and the whole ride home I'm thinking about one joke that the comedian said, and like, why did I laugh so hard about that? And what was it in the delivery and
My
setup?
favorite jokes are the ones that I don't know why I'm laughing. And even after thinking about it for a
Yes.
long time, I don't really get it, but
Yeah.
something in my reptile brain, it was funny. And I really see that as genius in the comedian's work, because they can't explain why it's funny.
I don't think you should have to. That's part of what, if you have to explain it too much, it's like you just you're gonna take the funny out of it. Just
Yeah.
sometimes just experience it
Dissecting
for
a
what it is.
frog. That's what
Yeah.
they say. Speaking of hecklers, let's shout out some of these people on YouTube, huh?
Yeah.
Like Jamie Dykes and Selected is Pissed and
Do you know any of these people?
Sullivan.
Because some of these people want to go to Colorado and work.
I don't know, but I
They're
see him talking
comedians.
about Boulder and
Yeah.
Cripple Creek, and
Yeah.
so at high altitudes,
Yeah.
good
Um,
stuff there.
but with the heckling stuff, I just on that just for a minute, and I'll move off of that. One of the things that really, um, I don't know, impressed me or just kind of had left a mark on me is how Norm Macdonald handled some of that towards the end of. I don't think he was always this way, but there were several instances of him having negative hecklers. People just give him a hard time in the audience, and he stops the show pretty much, and because the audience is like wanting to get him out of here, shut him up, and Norm's like, no, this is an opportunity for me to have a conversation with the guy. And he gets into a real break down the walls conversation and ends up like inviting the guy out to dinner after the show so they can work out their differences and all that kind of stuff. It's using comedy to break down walls has always been a thing, but never to that extent where it becomes personal. Like, meet me after the show, I'll take you out to dinner and we'll talk about this kind of stuff. Really, really, I don't know. For me, that was inspirational. Everybody can't do that, obviously, but for me, that was really a very cool thing. Earlier, you talked about keeping your show short. Now, I like that idea. I think show business, you can do it too long, you can overstay your welcome, and the old adage was you leave them wanting more, as you kind of alluded to that. They always want more. They're sad that it ends. They want more, and that's always a good thing because then they want to come back and all. But I think that art form or that concept in the art form has been lost to a great degree where, and I see this a lot in specials where there doesn't seem to be an end. It's just like, okay, my time is up. I'm just going to drop the mic and leave. Like I didn't have a closer, that kind of thing. So that doesn't leave you necessarily wanting more. But then the whole thing about keeping it short. I've been to some shows recently where it was a physical abuse because I couldn't laugh. My face was hurting, my sides were hurting, and although I enjoyed it, at the end of it, it was too much. It was like it went on for 2 hours, and now I'm in pain, and now I'm like I got a comedy hangover the next
Huh.
day. Talk to about any of or all of
Well,
that.
it helps for the dates too. Like there's always a lot of couples in the audience, and there's always somebody who dragged somebody else to the comedy show. And I feel a personal responsibility as a showrunner to make sure that my 100 people in my audience still want to go see a comedy show after they come to my show. because a lot of shows like the one you're talking about, it sounds like it was a hoot for 2 hours, and that's great. But maybe a show isn't great for 2 hours, and there are people in that audience that won't go to a comedy show again for 10 years. And you have ruined comedy for them, and you've made it harder for comics everywhere. So, and you've made an argument because maybe there was a fight about, hey, should we go see a movie or should we go to a comedy show? And there's a husband and a
You
wife.
ruined
The
the
wife wants to go to
relationship.
comedy, the husband doesn't, and now the husband's pissed forever and lords it over the wife. And you don't want that. You don't want to be part of a dispute in the home. And so yeah, just keep it short, keep it simple. It's better to go an hour 20 than an hour 40.
Yeah, I agree. And what about closing on a like a closer note? Because I see, and more I'm seeing this. It used to be that it felt like there was a callback at the end that just tied a special together. Now I'm seeing it's like, this is my act. This is where I ran out of time, and not necessarily a closing bit. I'm seeing more and more of that. Do you agree with me on that perception?
I I don't have the data to make a good comment on that. I will say that, a good headliner will close very strong. And if
Right.
they want to, if you I've done a lot of headlining spots and I've sold a lot of merch after shows. And I sometimes I know like I kind of fumbled the ball at the end and I can see it in the merch sales. So if I want to sell some merch after the show, it's my responsibility to close on an absolute killer joke and not just fizzle out. But there's some comics that are just, they're more, their shtick is that they're just organic and things aren't pre-planned and prescribed like that. And they do great as well. They're super funny. It's really about the punchlines. If the punchlines are there, the show's going to be great. And
Yeah, I think you're right about it. The elite comedians I know always have a definite close. You can recognize the
yeah,
close of the show. But I'm seeing more and more, maybe because I see so many local people just starting out. I see more and more people who just you get to the point where they ran out of time. It feels
yeah.
like they ran out of time,
Yeah,
and
it's
that
always a good sign when you recognize as an audience member, oh, this guy's about to say good night and
right,
goodbye.
right,
Like this is the oh my goodness. Like I've been laughing at this level and that punchline just kicked it up 50% higher. He's
right.
got to be going out on this or she's got to be going out on this or they're making a mistake.
Yeah, that's showbiz, man. That's showbiz, baby.
Yeah. Bruce Willis knows.
Yeah. Now do you do a podcast and like an interview, a live stream
So
podcast like that?
the comedians in cars thing that you were talking about, which was just called Mark Masters Comedy, I think was the name of it, was the closest thing I had to a consistent podcast. Because it is released as a podcast. I have a couple newer episodes in the can that I haven't released yet. Once I get up to like 10 to 15, I'll probably do a season 2 of that. The other thing I do is every Friday night I have what used to be a showcase called Comedy Test Kitchen. I started in the first couple of months of the pandemic. I did every single Friday night. Hit 100 episodes a few months ago, and would have it was the fastest comedy show on the internet. 30-minute comedy show. We'd have 5 comics. So I worked with over 500 comedians from around the world, almost every continent. A lot of Europe, a lot of Asia, 49 of the American states. We had comics from. It was a lot of fun. And recently, though, the audience has dwindled off a little bit, and so I pivoted the format to make it more interesting for me. And it feels a little bit like a podcast now because it's just me and one other comic for 30 minutes. We get to know each other a little bit, and then we work on each other's jokes. Like I'll tell some new jokes I'm working on. They'll give me some ideas, help me punch it up, give me some new, avenues to explore, ways to lengthen, and then they'll share some jokes, and I'll help them, and then we have
Do you
audience members as well that are live that are helping us
do
punch
you
up the
find that
jokes.
comedians are generally open to working with other comedians or hearing input from other comedians
Yeah,
on
not everybody is. If I'm at a show and I have a tag for another comic, I'll always ask them before I give it to them. Like, are you open to any feedback to a tag or a suggestion? And I'd say 80% of the time the comics are like, yeah, absolutely. I might not use it, but yeah, I'll take it. it's free.
Yeah.
It can't hurt.
One of the pet peeves that a lot of comedians I talk to about is when people, laymen,
audience
for
members.
want to just tell, you should do this bit in your
Right.
show, or you should do a bit about this. That kind of.
I think it's fine. I mean, everybody's got a different temperature about that, but I think I don't mind interacting with the public in that
Have
way.
you ever heard something that you thought, wow, that's interesting, I'd use that?
Oh yeah, all the
Really?
time. Yeah. I had a joke that somebody completely improved. I forget what my original joke was even, but they told me a similar story. It was basically about a dumb coworker, and there was like a misunderstanding about some TV show I was explaining to them. And what they told me, this is like a total secret that I'm now exposing. I tell this joke on stage all the time, and I totally got it from an audience member. The joke is that I had a dumb audience member, or sorry, a dumb coworker who I was telling about a TV show. This was like a TV documentary, not science fiction or anything. And I explained that one of the protagonists got decapitated, and they with a straight face asked me if the character lived, which clearly means they don't know what the word decapitated means. And that was from an audience member. I can't even remember what the original misunderstanding over a word was, but it was the same, just replace decapitation with a different word, and living with a different verb. And it was the same thing. And this I think it was a woman told me, like, hey, I had something really similar to that happen. And she told me that story where she told a coworker about somebody getting decapitated and the person not knowing if the person was alive or not afterwards. And now I don't tell that joke that frequently, but I've definitely told it on stage several times.
That's pretty funny.
So.
I'm always astonished by
Stupidity.
Stupidity makes me laugh a lot. When I was in the hair and beauty industry, one of the things I ran a website that taught people high-end hair styling and hair cutting online. And hairdressers out there, I'm not really. I'm branding you as all like the stupidest people in the world. Some of the questions I got for I can't log in. I forgot my name. How do I spell my name? Like, wait a minute. Maybe you should call your mother, not me. you forgot how to spell your name, seriously? And it wasn't like a screen name. It was their name.
Yeah, their actual
wait
name.
a minute. This yeah, bizarre.
That's crazy.
Back to Colorado, if I can, for just a minute here. Now, my perception of Colorado as a state is schizophrenia, or I don't know, bipolarism, or and not in a way, just from you're very hardcore right-wing attitudes and very hardcore left-wing attitudes kind of mixed together. You have a state that is, pro legal marijuana and very liberal in some, but also pro-gun, and outdoorsy and all that kind of stuff. Is my perception close to being on target from your perspective as somebody who lives there?
Oh man. I'm old now, and I try to avoid that stuff. I just, like, I'm so tired. When I was young, I was so opinionated, and I have opinions, but I try and just not engage with strangers on, hot button topics. But I will tell you, just, from being a reader of the news, we're a purple state.
Purple.
We got blue people, we got red people.
That's a better way of saying it than bipolar.
Yeah, they tend to be divided geographically. So the more rural areas tend to be red, and the cities where a lot of young people move, Denver, Fort Collins, Boulder, are more blue. But there's definitely, America has changed in the last 10 years to where just people are more vocal and upfront and in your face about how they feel about politics. I didn't used to always be that way.
Right.
Can
anything become political, though?
What's that?
can anything become political? Because I was talking this morning about Louis J. Gomez commenting on parenting, and like something as mundane as trying to make a joke about the state of parenting and all that stuff can trigger people into their political. I'm going to make a political stance about this. I feel like there is no safe area where you can avoid politics completely.
I mean, you can talk about inanimate objects. I have a
Yeah,
lot of jokes about
right.
inanimate objects, or you talk about Netflix or Airbnb. There's not politics in that stuff. You talk about decapitation. Republicans and Democrats get decapitated the same way. Head comes clean off. That's what the word means.
Actually, I believe this isn't too long ago that I read that a head, once a severed head, can remain alive for up to 10 minutes. That's what
Can it be reattached, or it's just
I
still kicking?
I didn't ask that question. To me, I was just so dumbfounded about just trying to picture that.
That's
Like,
such a good word, dumbfounded.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, how you could possibly, I mean, the consciousness there, can you actually know you were decapitated and know that, all of that stuff? It's baffling my mind. But up to 10 minutes, that's a long, I don't know if it could be right. There's
Well,
too many.
Ted Williams is working on 100 years coming up soon.
Wait,
He's got his head frozen somewhere.
is that true?
Yeah.
I know it's hard to tell, like folklore or whatever, urban legend from reality with a lot of, because
Well, I mean,
when
I
I was
don't know
growing up,
that.
it was
I've
Walt
read it
Disney.
in reputable sources that he's,
Yeah.
what's the word for that? To freeze your cryogenic. Yeah,
Cryogenic, right?
cryogenic freezing.
Yes, that's it.
So I think he's been frozen.
Walt Disney was the one when I was growing up. That was the big story, was him. He was.
Huh.
I don't know if that was true either, but
Okay.
anyway, getting off the decapitation. So, but yeah, I get what you're saying, that you can find things that seem to have no political connection to them. But I think sometimes audiences can try to push that idea on stuff. So building up time. Now, I know this is kind of, it talked about over the idea of cancel culture and all that stuff, and comedians being having to walk on eggshells. I do think there's something to that, having to walk on eggshells about what you can and can't say without inciting or dividing your audience in some way. But to build up enough time for, to build up an hour, from an hour, a solid hour. Any challenges there with saying, okay, finding stuff that's completely non-political to build up an hour of?
I think it depends on the comedian. I mean, it's not easy to have a full hour of comedy. It takes a long time, a lot of bad jokes. There's a huge mountain of terrible jokes that you tried at open mics that didn't work, and you might write 10 minutes of material and get a 15-word, like 20-second joke out of all that garbage. And then you need a lot of 20-second segments to lead up to an hour.
Right.
I don't have a lot of trouble with that. Some people might object that my comedy isn't more personal and political, but my jokes have never really been. I kind of, I read a lot of Jerry Seinfeld before I got into comedy, and the general idea is, if you work clean, it's easy to go dirty later. And if you work clean and apolitical, you can make a lot of money on corporate stuff, because there isn't money. When you work a club, like these prestigious gigs, they don't pay well. It's really the corporate stuff that pays the mortgage.
Yeah,
So
I
I've
get that.
always skewed. I mean, I have a couple kind of dirty jokes that I'll use occasionally. Like if I go do one of these oil mining towns, a lesson I've learned is, if I start dirty, I just tell a couple, PG-13 to maybe R jokes in the beginning, and I do 45 minutes of clean stuff. People don't even notice that you were clean the whole time.
Right. Get it.
So
We speaking of comedy clubs, it's time to let go of governors for the morning, and so they can go on with Knock 'em Dead comedy, which starts at